Hey guys, so pretty much this video is Representative Thomas Massie defund the auto kill switch. Let's hear Thomas Massie talk about this.
It is now in order to consider amendment number 1, printed in Part B of House Report 119-462. For what purpose does the gentleman from Kentucky seek recognition?
Mr. Chair, I have an amendment at the desk.
The clerk shall designate the amendment.
Amendment number 1, printed in Part B of House Report number 119-462, offered by Mr. Massie of Kentucky.
Pursuant to House Resolution 1014, the gentleman from Kentucky, Mr. Massie, and a member opposed, each will control 5 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Kentucky.
Mr. Chair, I rise in support of our amendment. This is co-sponsored by Mr. Perry from Pennsylvania and Mr. Roy from Texas. And I regret that we have to offer this amendment. What I'm going to describe will probably sound like a bad science fiction movie, but that's what's written into law. Right now in law, that's going to be implemented it says for 2026 and beyond. Now, the reality is the technology doesn't exist, but that doesn't keep legislators from imagining things that they would like to do to infringe on civil liberties. But there is a law that states that every vehicle manufactured is going to have a kill switch in it. The car itself will monitor your driving, and if the car thinks that you're not doing a good job driving, it will disable itself. So the car dashboard becomes your judge, your jury, and your executioner. Imagine this. We got a snowstorm coming. A mom takes her kids out. They're going to the grocery store. It's snowing. They're trying to get some groceries before the big storm hits. She swerves for a pothole. The neighbor's pet gets in the way, swerves for that. A first responder goes by. She pulls over. Her car says, "You got one more swerve, and then we're going to ground you." There it is. The next thing she has to avoid, an icy patch in the road. The car has adjudicated her as unsuitable for driving. It disables the vehicle, and there she's stranded. My question is, how do you appeal your sentence once your car, the technology in your car, has judged you to be incapable of driving? Once it's disabled you and your children at the side of the road, how do you appeal that? Do you press a button on the dashboard? Do you start talking to an AI? What if it really was somebody who was drunk? Are you really going to send a police car after this? Disabled vehicle? Do we have the resources to do that? There's going to be so many false positives. The technology is unworkable. That's why the DOT is still in the rulemaking process, asking for feedback on how this thing could even exist. And it's just a bad idea, but it's in law, and so our amendment would defund that.
I'm not libertarian per se always, but it's like big corporations that are deciding whether somebody's good or not. They're pretty much treating other people like children. So it's like, hey, you have failed based off of our criteria, so now you lose privileges to drive. That said, you need to drive in U.S. society to function economically or even socially. So for there to be a kill switch based off of like, oh, in this instance, the auto manufacturer is saying, oh, it's because you're driving poorly, and then the internal system is saying, hey, you're not performing up to standard, we can't allow this to continue. You're killing that person socially, like their movement and whatnot. So you got to give that person alternatives in terms of bus routes or walkability or public transport, like some train tracks or something for them to, like, if you're going to make this a thing, you got to give them an alternative. This is crazy.
I'd like to reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Kentucky is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, drunk driving is a serious problem, but 31 states already have the technology to keep drunk drivers off of the road with ignition interlock devices that they can mandate. And this technology that's in the law is not going to fix the drunk driving problem. With that, I'd like to yield 2 minutes to my friend from Pennsylvania, Mr. Perry.
The gentleman from Pennsylvania is yielded 2 minutes.
I thank the gentleman for Kentucky for his work on this, and of course, the chairman of the full committee for the hard work on appropriations. Look, none of us want to be on the road with drunk drivers. And of course, this was a solution intended to deal with them. And all of us want them to be dealt with. But I'm going to remind everybody, as my friend from Kentucky just said, there is already legislation in multiple states, dozens of states, that deal with drunk drivers through the ignition interlock system. Probably in your family somewhere, someone you know, you've dealt with this. I know in my family and the people I know, I've dealt with it. But here's what I don't want to see in America. Everybody being punished for the people that drink and drive, including the ones that don't drink and drive. I happen not to drink, but I'm going to be forced to have this thing in my car, and I'm going to tell you what's next. After what Thomas said, after what Representative Massie said, the car is going to be the judge, jury, and sentencer for your crime in the car. The next thing is going to be, well, we need to hook this thing up to the government so we can dispatch the police. I'm just going to tell you what's going to happen next. They're going to be shutting your car off when they decide whatever they decide from wherever they decide it. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know about what you think about due process and the Constitution and the Fourth Amendment and the right to not be imposed upon by illegal, unlawful search and seizure, but punishing everybody for this crime, whether they've committed it or not, if they're going to commit it or not, should be unconstitutional. This shouldn't really be a question. We all want to get to the problem, and we're happy to work with everybody on all sides to deal with it. But you cannot convict, and punish everybody in the country for the sake of the ones that do things that they shouldn't do. And with that,
He is saying, oh, slippery slope. People have a desire, hey, let's keep Americans safe from drunk drivers. But then this leads to, oh, you're going to put constraints upon everybody. You're going to be taking away their freedom and whatnot because, oh, there's some rascals in society that endanger safety. They make life not very fun with too many constraints. You are having too much supervision from big governments. Your freedoms are being limited. Again, safety. Safety is important, right? People live in certain areas and avoid other areas because safety is the first level of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? That's what they say in school. But it's like, if you just sacrifice everything for the sake of safety and security and you worship that, then it's like turning it into an idol. And then you start just living a, I don't know, dystopian reality, right? And then, as you can see in the comments, these guys are saying it's not about drunk drivers, it's about control and the you will own nothing agenda. This person says it's not about safety, it's about control. Yeah, small laws are pieced together to create great tyranny. And then this person mentioned like the Canadian trucker situation where the truckers in Canada, they were being overworked, or I don't even know. I don't want to talk too much about it because I'm ignorant. But the government was against the truckers, and then they like froze their bank accounts and whatnot because of a disagreement, because they're like, hey, truckers, you're endangering the lives of Canadian industry and the medical system and the food supply, logistics and all that. You're bad actors, so we're going to freeze your bank accounts rather than just negotiate with them. This person said this should make all those used cars so much more valuable because they don't have this new technology that oppresses people. Yeah, and then this person says dystopia. This person says this will be used in the upcoming social credit score system. If you don't have the right opinions or whoever's in power at the moment, you will be punished possibly in the middle of a snowstorm.